Cortland Simmons with you back on the CS Racing Report for this Super Saturday and Sunday. The major races on this Super weekend leading up to the Breeders' Cup World Thoroughbred Championships to be held at Churchill Downs, the home of the Kentucky Derby and the host for this year's Breeders' Cup. And we're going to take a look at what is this year the local prep enhanced by the Breeders' Cup being held in Louisville, the Lukas Classic, named after the venerable Hall of Famer Wayne Lukas, four-time Kentucky Derby winner, all-time leading trainer of the Breeders' Cup, and legend that he is. It's a 1.8 for 3-year-olds and up, $200,000, grade 3 level. All these horses are going to be carrying 121 pounds. And the Lukas Classic drew a field of 8. Unfortunately, didn't draw kind of the marquee names that you'd like to see, and I think the advent of the Pennsylvania Derby has taken away from these 3-year-olds running against older horses prior to a big event like the Breeders' Cup, and so therefore it's had a bit of an adverse effect on the Lukas Classic as well as the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So not only the Pennsylvania Derby, we'll also talk about the Oklahoma Derby being held this weekend, as well as that also has sort of blunted some of the 3-year-old participation against older males in this particular event. But nevertheless, it drew a couple interesting characters. The most interesting one is your 6-5 favorite, or your 1-5 favorite, Mind Your Biscuits. And we all know him very well from his back-to-back wins in Dubai in the Golden in the big race there for the big sprint there, the Golden Shaheen. He was impressive in finishing second, just inched out in the Metropolitan Mile, and then he was stretched out around 2 turns in the Whitney Handicap at Saratoga on an off track that became that way in the minutes leading up to the race. And the winner, Diversify, who we all know well, who we're going to talk a lot about on this Super Saturday, Super Sunday, had no opposing speed in that race. Yet Mind Your Biscuits ran very well to finish second in his first run beyond 8 furlongs. And so now Chad Summers is taking it a little further by trying him again at the route distance rather than running in the shorter Vosburg at Belmont Park at home. Takes the show on the road to Churchill, gets a race over the Breeders' Cup surface in Louisville by running in the Lukas Classic to number one, not only get a run over the track, but to also see if the 1.8 is in his wheelhouse, and he will appreciate, like he did in the Whitney, to a greater degree, in a manner which would suggest that he could be a very live contender at 1.25 miles in the Breeders' Cup Classic. That's what this research project is really all about. It's become more than just a grand experiment at this point, and if he wins convincingly, Chad Summers is certainly going to consider that. We all know that the options are many and varied for this horse, because if it doesn't work out so well, even if he wins and they feel as though from a fitness standpoint that it would be better to stay at the sprint distance of 6 furlongs or run in the dirt mile, that will obviously be the alternative route if they decide to not go in the biggest of events on Breeders' Cup Day, that being the Classic. So he comes in as the main event, or the featured horse in here. The other horse that's very interesting is the runner-up in the 2014, that's right, 2014 Breeders' Cup Classic, and that would be Toast of New York. He is coming back after being retired from racing. He was gelded because his stallion career, for whatever issues he had as a stallion, precluded him from continuing to have his second life as a stallion. And he's back on the racetrack. Had a win recently here, and he's 15-1. And he, like many of the other horses, with the exception of Honorable Duty coming out of the number 1 hole, are at double-digit odds. He's at 15-1, and justifiably so. He hasn't raced at this level in quite some time. We're looking at about a 3.5-year break since that the gap between that second place finish to Bayern, trained by Bob Baffert in that 2014 Classic. So Honorable Duty at 5-2 is the second choice, coming out of the number 1, Remembering Rita, Rated R Superstar out of the Kenny McPeak barn. Toast of New York coming out of the number 4 hole, Flowers for Lisa. All those horses are from 12 to 15-1. Then Mind Your Biscuits is the prohibitive 1-5 favorite. Term of Art is 10-1, and Breaking Lucky is 6-1. So who are we picking for a race like this? Well, I would imagine that many of you are by and large going to pick the favorite, and then try to find value in who can finish underneath in second, third, and fourth, whether you're playing, as I mentioned in previous podcasts on Super Saturday and Super Sunday, or you're playing the exacta, the trifecta, or the superfecta, or all of the above. You're certainly going to try to dissect this as best as possible, look at some video, and see if you can come up with a solution and a formula to back up picking Mind Your Biscuits to win this race. Having said that, though, even the best laid plans can go wrong. Strange things can happen. And so if Mind Your Biscuits gets knocked off as the favorite, somebody out there who's deciding to go the alternative route, that's looking to hit the home run, will get paid very handsomely if Mind Your Biscuits doesn't deliver in this race. So that's your field for the Lukas Classic. I'm picking Mind Your Biscuits, and until otherwise noted, he's the horse to beat in here. Toast of New York, it'll be very interesting to see how he performs. But again, that's basically the composition and the makeup and identity of the Lukas Classic. $200,000 for 3-year-olds and up, carrying 121 pounds, grade 3 at Churchill Downs, the home of this year's Breeders' Cup World Thoroughbred Championships. And we'll do a recap on that race here on the CS Racing Report.